Well, hello and welcome to Woodburn Reservoir. Now, it's this beautiful wood as well. You can see there's woods on this side, then we've got the path, and then we've got woods on this side as well. Let me angle it a little bit up as well. Beautiful place, and we've also got then a reservoir that we're going to go down and have a look at as well. But I'm searching for some images, some reference images that I can then take back to the studio to draw, because I don't have time today to sit down and draw. And I thought, well, that's a good thing to model too, isn't it? That you can actually go and gather reference images, get some nice videos, and then head back to the warmth of the studio and draw too. So my hands aren't free, but I'll put everything under, and you can see this finger. Come on with me and let's get some reference images in this beautiful place, Woodburn Reservoir, in close to Carrickfergus in Northern Ireland. There's something about being able to just walk in a wood. I mean, at the minute I think that there's no other person here. Being able to see the path that's behind you and being able to look up as well. Just being able to notice the way that the canopy functions as well. It's pretty cool, isn't it? I hope you've enjoyed this little exploration. Those reservoirs come absolutely out of nowhere, don't they? Especially the second one, you wouldn't know it was there. Anyhow, let's go back to the studio and get one of these printed off so we can draw from them with our Inktense pencils. Come on. Well, here we are, we're back in the studio now. I really hope you enjoyed the drone footage that went over that forest that is so much bigger than it looks from the ground. This perspective that you get from a bird's eye view is really just wonderful. So I've taken a bit of time and I've edited through the stills that I took while I was there in the forest. And I've decided to settle on this one. Now this is actually quite underexposed. Let me bring it even closer. It's quite underexposed, but you've got this lovely blue kind of tone and slight like sort of a dusky darkness that's on top of it, and I thought it would be really good to attempt to capture the feel of that a little bit with some Derwent Inktense pencils. So come on with me and let's tackle this image together. Okay, so I've got my Seawhite of Brighton paper. I'm running low actually, so I need to place a good order. So if you're interested in the Seawhite of Brighton paper, I find it really reasonable and really good quality. It's 350 GSM, it's cold pressed, it has the two different sides, so the kind of fine cold pressed result and then this sort of more, like what would you call it? Slightly smoother cold pressed result. They have a website. This is Seawhite of Brighton, which is Art Saver, so it's www.saver.com, and you can get really good value paper there. I tend to buy in them for bulk. We've got our little printed photograph there, and a few of you have been asking a few times what camera that I'm using, and this is it's the Kodak. I think it's like a mini printer. It's probably roughly about £100. It works out, you're paying for 60 of these, you know, the cartridge that holds 30, and you get 2 packs of 30, and it's about £17 for the 60 prints, which I think is really reasonable, so much that you can select your own. And I want to over communicate, if you haven't watched my videos before or haven't said this before, that you've heard. I use these as a way of drawing me away from trying to focus on the details, so that it is much more an abstraction of it rather than me trying to get lost in getting the detail, and then that just isn't helpful. So we're using the bespoke set. I used that recently when I was at the monastic site in Nandram, and this has a variety of different pencils that let me turn it around the right way, that I selected because it sort of fits the colours that I would use. Then I have this set of 24. They are all Derwent Inktense, and you can see by the ones that have that I use the most, you can see they're varying sizes. So I just want to have these kind of out and ready while we're going to be making this today. So let's make a start. And the brush that I have, I think it's all sort of rubbed off now, but it's a flat wash. So I think it's probably close to an inch in thickness, watercolor brush. And I've then got my water here. I wanted to say this is a Nutella glass. You know, the jars that you buy with the wee white lids? And I just think they are fantastic for painting with, particularly when you're just in the studio. Now, I've done a number of plein air videos recently, which I have really enjoyed. There is a difference in the style really that you're going, obviously it's you, so there's that whole accepting your own hand, but when you're in the studio the conditions are very manageable, so I can control the light. I can also there's no wind, the paper's not going to tip, and the water's not going to run. So it's a different environment, and normally I'm much more at my ease as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start this with a blue. The other thing that I get asked about a lot is this pencil sharpener. What pencil sharpener do I use? This is the Faber-Castell. You've got to make sure that you open it where these are, or else sometimes the shavings can go in it everywhere. I go to the jumbo graphite side, if you can see that, and I use the larger one. And normally it's literally a couple of twists, and then that's it ready. Okay, so let's make a start. So I'm using the blue because I really want to try and capture this sort of nighttime mood, and really using this continuous line. Now, I deliberately move the pencil like this because I remember when I started back trying to use colouring pencils, the way that I was using them, I just ended up thinking I really don't like this. I am turning the pencil as I go while I'm doing this. I'm getting in the initial structures. I'm not overly thinking about composition at this stage. I am literally just wanting to capture this, or the kind of feel of this as best I can, leaning heavy in for certain areas. Now, because I'm using the Derwent Inktense, I'm very familiar with them, and I know that the spread of the ink will be really quite dramatic. So then we're just letting this move into this other part here of this. It's like this, you know, the big massive Christmas trees. I'm not sure what you call them. I used to garden all the time, and it feels like sometimes some of that gardening knowledge is falling off and being replaced by the obsessive painting knowledge. Now, I am deliberately using the continuous line because these are the little lines here that I feel are quite important. So I'm just gonna, not trying to be overly accurate with them. And then at this point, I'm going to, now actually that is more severe. And then I'm going to use the darker, the more pressure of it to establish that this is the actual line that I want to go for. So really, as I'm looking, I'm noticing, okay, these are dark structural lines to this actual composition. And I'm taking my care with getting this road in here, and noticing that isn't a little bit more, just correcting that line a little bit there, okay? Just taking my time to let that tail off around there, okay. And this is the underpinning color, okay? And this one is bright blue, and the code on it is 1000, so that's 1000, that's the code for that one. If you're looking to buy some of these, then you can go to their website and buy these bespoke colors. I think what I did with this pack, which is the bespoke pack, was I bought, you can buy 12 and it comes in the tin, which is really, really helpful. There's part of me at times thinks, would I be better just sort of having them all in a jar? But actually when they're laid out like that, it's far easier to find the ones in the colors that you're looking for. And also you get to know, it's like in the watercolor half pan tin, you get to know where the colors are and the colors that you need to find with their position in the tin, which makes it much easier. Twirling the pencil as I go is always just a technique that I use, and it keeps it nice and lucid. That line seems quite straight, so I want to make sure that it's not the dominant straight line. Leaning heavy for some of these darker kind of trunks on the trees, and then want to get in this kind of, now there's a little, if you notice here, I'm just going to edit that out because that would be quite awkward if that was to remain. It makes sense because it's cut off here, but at that bit it might not be that helpful, so I'm just going to, that's a editorial compositional decision that I am making as I go. Okay, so what we're going to go to next is, let me see, we've got oak and we've got leaf green. So just really keeping this fluid and keeping it moving now. Sort of working, whenever I'm doing watercolors, tend to work like this. Now this is a blunter pencil, and actually I'm happy enough with that because it's going to let me cover greater areas. So I'm just going to be blocking in as I go. So I've got this color in my hand, and if you've seen videos before, then you'll notice that I look around and think, okay, where is this present elsewhere? And then I just keep going. And it's also present in these up here. And these tones, they're like they're working together. They feel that they're in this kind of darker tonal range. And also, we are using these, this is not how this is going to remain, obviously, because we're going to add water to this, which is going to be the game changer in it. So we don't need to fill the entire thing in. If we do that, then the result that we end up will be very different than the result really that I'm actually looking for. So just continuing to block it in, keeping it really nice and free and loose and expressive. That's the vibe to be done with the kids. That's the word that they all seem to be using at the minute. Everything's about vibing. And I'll use that as another backdrop kind of color. Okay, so all of it, let me see, let's add some of this in. This is beach green. Slightly cooler again. Just sort of gliding this across here. And let's actually look for, then we've got the oak. So let me go with the number. So the leaf green was 1600, 1600. The beach green we just added there was 1510, so that's 1510. And this one is oak, which is 1730, 1730. So it's much more of a brown. So we're just going to look for some areas, funny enough that being called oak. We're just going to add in to some of the barks of the trees here. I've got Bonnie here beside me, so if she starts to give off, you'll forgive her. There's another dog that's barking, so I'm preempting Bonnie giving off as well. How many of you bring your dog with you whenever you're drawing? Isn't it just drawing or painting? Isn't it just so relaxing having them with you? And I've noticed that actually on a Friday, it's crazy how much dogs know. On a Friday, Bonnie, normally I'm out to work, and on a Friday I have the day to spend in the studio doing things like this, which is just wonderful. And Bonnie knows that it's a Friday, and I'll say to her, you coming out? And out she comes. Dogs are incredible, great company. Okay, so we've used that oak. Now, where I want to go next is, I think, let's look for a bark. No, that's an outliner, and I want to look for, that's ink black. So yes, there's the bark. Now you can tell that I use the bark a lot in comparison to look at that in comparison to the oak, which is roughly a lot newer. You can see how much I use it. So it's really quite blunt. Making sure that I open this pencil sharpener here. A couple of twists, and there we are. We've got a nice sharp point. And because it's nice and sharp, then we can begin to get, there's lots of these sort of fine branches. So just drawing that across here. I'm looking for more of those darker places. And the other thing with when you're doing branches, it keeps it really lovely and fluid whenever you move it like this, you know. And we really want this area in here to be as dark as it actually is. There's an element where when you're, I always had this tendency when I was at school to want everything to keep it light, because somehow it's like in school they have up on the wall saying draw light until it's right, whereas I think be bold and you'll find the gold. You know, there is reward in the boldness rather than sort of accommodating this fear of failure of getting it wrong. So that's why I really discipline myself now to go much darker, even when I'm a little bit scared that it could wreck it. But I'm holding that thought captive because fear's just not helpful in any aspect of life. Okay, so, and again, darker in here, much darker in here. And we're going to go dark again with the ink black. Just keeping this moving. Really starting to enjoy this. It's starting to build up well. There's Bonnie. Don't you start giving off now, Bonnie. Okay, and then we're going to look for the Payne's Grey for this, for the road here, which is going to hopefully work really well for us. Just initially getting this kind of darker patch. That sort of fluid movement, rolling it around. And then this area is darker as well. I'm mixing in these two. Now, it's very dark up at this point. There's just a little movement across the path there. And I'm just going to keep moving this across here. Light on this area, slightly darker. Now, I haven't twirled the pencil because I know that if I keep doing this, I'm going to end up with this nice flat side here, which is what I really, really want. And just darkening down for this section here. Okay, now we're going to go for the, sorry, let me read to you what was the Payne's Grey. I've dropped it in. Where have I put my Payne's Grey? There it is, Payne's Grey. So Payne's Grey is 2110, that's 2110. And so that's the beach green, just going to pop that back. And then we're looking for the Indian ink because it's going to give us a really, really nice, rich. Now, it is slightly warmer, so just maybe looking for it in some highlighted areas, but definitely worth finding the darkest points in it. And then there's also, so this is the Indian ink, again, the warmer kind of version, and then there's also the ink black, which we're going to use as well. But this much darker area where the tree trunks, and just this repeated movement up and down and then blending that in is going to really add quite a bit. Okay, now I think we're getting towards the end of this part, so I'm going to want to add in, because that's the leaf green, I'm going to want to add in, go for the ink black. Now the ink black's quite flat there. Ink black, I suppose, would be closer to an ivory black if you were to translate it in the colours that I would know in my watercolour palette. Let's get a couple of those sections there. Okay, and let's cross hatch this across to this area here. Little bits of pencil debris. And there's actually no sense of branch on this side, so we can just really kind of blacken it up there. Bring that out ever so slightly. So you can make little corrections as you go along, which I also really enjoy doing. Okay, and then let's see, we'd used the bright blue. Okay, let's do a little courageous thing here, and for this area of the path we're going to use an iris blue, which is 0900. Now let me find the black again so that I can tell you. The ink black is 2200. So let's just add in a little bit of this blue just to a couple of little sections there. Okay, and like, let's take some light olive, and we're going to finish with the light olive because I just want to add a little bit more tone to this section here. Now I'm interested to see how this, now the direction of the pencil will also help you model certain areas. So whatever way you take it, like these lines are going to help sort of straighten this area out a little bit to show you that it's flat. If I do it this direction, it's going to help you know that the bank kind of goes up a little bit, like in this section. So pencil direction is really important in terms of what you're communicating. Okay, let's down tools with the pencils. Get the lids back on, move them out of the way. Then we know that that bit is done. The other bit I want to do then is add in a little signature, taking the Lamy Safari, a little Colin 20, I'm going to say 24, we're now in 2025. So let's move the cup of chai tea out of the way so that it doesn't end up getting sullied with water. Okay, so I'm going to take quite a good chunk of water here. I'm going to just start to agitate this using the corner of the brush. Okay, and we're going to begin to, there's a little dominance of the brown there, okay? So just want to wash that off, so it means that I can come to this section and I can begin to move this around. Now, it's lovely working in the flat here because nothing's going to run on me. Get a couple of, oop, as he nearly tips the water everywhere, that wouldn't be so good. And just agitating this, letting the blues mingle. And with these Inktense, you can really lift it. So it's going to keep the structure underneath, which is the thing that I love. And I know that many of you, that's maybe not something that you really do enjoy. And that's one thing that I really, really love about the Inktense is that you're not going to lose the structural work that you've done with the pencil work. And then for certain areas, I'm taking the flatness of the brush. So remember, with a flat brush, you've got the corner, you can do the verticals, and you can also do horizontals, which is just, for me, makes it the most versatile brush that I can have in my arsenal of brushes. Now, this is a section that I'm taking. So with a lot of these, I'm just lifting it, doing that gently. But with this, I really want more control. So I'm taking the majority of the water off the brush. And I'm going to be more careful in this section. And the other thing that I can do is, so it's really, really dark in this bit here. Now, okay, so we've got the path. Now the path, I am just going to move across like that and begin to let it, so there's less, remember we used less there, so I can agitate here and here, knowing that, and I'm happy to let these bleed. This is going to be part of this. And what I can also do is I can lift off this side. So to lift anything, I take the brush. Now, I don't want it dripping everywhere. So take the brush and I squeeze it like a squeegee, and then it'll turn this brush into a hoover, and it will suck up the water that is present there. And some of these colors are mixing that I don't want to go through, so I can create nearly like a barrier across there, and it's really very effective. Now you can see that I am deliberately letting a lot of these swirl together because I want this kind of idea of the landscape all being, you know, tied in. So that's a deliberate choice on my part, and that was also a deliberate choice in terms of mixing the colors as well. The other thing is that this obviously will dry, and that's one thing that I love about watercolor. With acrylic or oil or even pastel, once you lay them down, nothing's really going to change from the wet state to the dry state. Whereas with watercolor, it really has this wonderful settling in process, which is just such a unique thing. It settles into parts of the paper and the colors play together. And then there's a lady who had come to a number of the classes that I've held, and she had said she thinks of watercolor as a conversation with water, and I thought that was just such a lovely, really very poetic description for what goes on. It's flinging everywhere and I'm loving it. Now you wonder, can I get it to, I'm going to lift some of that blue and cause it to fling. If I can. So this, the other thing that you can do, so to remove the detail of the pencil marks, then you just continue to agitate. Yeah, that's what I wanted. Excellent. So I've deliberately left this little bit lighter here. Going to take the corner of the brush, and we've kept this bit light there as well. And there we are. We've got, here's the photograph, and here's my interpretation of it. And there's one last thing that we've got to do, and this is the stampers. These are little stampers you can get in Hobbycraft in the UK. They were £1.99. I bought them about 5 years ago. I have a couple of spare packs just in case they ever run out. Love the font, and for me it's actually become quite a signature to the work, and it ties it in with the place. And also from a commercial point of view, then, for, you know, in terms of selling the artwork for someone, people buy artwork because of a connection that they feel to it. So for someone who walks regularly in Woodburn Forest and they like it, they're going, this is it for me. So anyway, so what I'm going to do is just take a couple of moments. I know that some of you have seen me do this before, but I thought it is actually such an important part of the process for me. Now, because they're getting old, there's been a couple of times where I have mixed up the O's for the D's, which is interesting, but I tend to just leave it in. I missed an E for a B the other day, which wasn't great, but just left it in. It becomes a certain quirk. And I remember I totally missed out a letter one time way back when I was really starting to do this more seriously. There's the B. So the way to check that obviously is to just turn it around and go, yep, it's a B. Several t-shirts that I have had of making mistakes, but also I think the quirks, sometimes people like them, so I always just stick it out there anyway and see if somebody's interested in it. So I'll not, I did one where we went as a family up the north coast and we toasted marshmallows, so I called it Toasting Marshmallows. So sometimes this play on words. When I was at art college, there's an artist, Willie Docherty from Northern Ireland, and he really explored this idea of words against images. So it's something that I really find very powerful and have a value for. So for me, it's signed. We've done the pencil work. We've use the water to bring it to life and to activate the ink in these watercolor pencils. I've signed it, and also then I've added in the stampers. So for me, this is now finished. Well, what did you think of that? Really interested to read your comments. I am in love with these Derwent Inktense watercolor pencils, and I know there is some controversy as to whether you might class them as watercolor pencils or not. They do on their website, and for me, the metrics that I use is it requires water to release the ink pigment, or it's ink in this case. In other instances, it's something slightly different. So I really enjoy using them. I love how vibrant they are, how dramatic they are, and trying to play with this notion of this darker part of the day in the forest. Hopefully that came across. It didn't have the kind of blue haze across it that you might be able to achieve when you're using watercolor from a watercolor pan. But I really love the drawing process. I hope you found benefit in this video, even in terms of being out in the forest and just considering where you are and what you see, and allowing yourself, giving yourself permission to be drawn to the images that you're drawn to, and to work with reference images that cause you joy and excite you and delight you, and you can see opportunity in. So enjoy that, go out and explore. And I love then coming home, getting a cup of coffee, sitting down in front of the fire at this time of year and just looking through those images and thinking, right, yes, this is the one that I want to look at and explore. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit that little bell icon at the top, and it'll notify you of when new videos are dropping. I'm also considering offering a channel membership. I don't know whether that's something that you would be interested in. What you would get with that is extra live sessions and some videos that are for members only. So I'm currently considering that as to whether that's something that I would offer. If you want to know more about the services that I can provide, then go to my website, which is www.woodwardswatercolors.co.uk. You'll find a portfolio of my work. You can have a look at that at your leisure. You'll find a link to my Etsy store if the artwork is something you'd like on your wall. I also offer workshops, private tuition, commission, and all sorts of things. So go there if you'd like some more information. But for now, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next episode sometime soon. Bye everyone.